$160 million. That's what one company is spending on a data center right here in Georgetown, Texas, off Westinghouse Road. The City Council approved it back in September of 2024. It's not the only one in the area. Round Rock just approved a bigger one in February. So is this good news for your home value or bad news? I'm Stuart Sutton, and I've been in this exact market helping buyers and sellers in Georgetown, Texas for well over 3 decades. And I'm going to try to give you the straight answer so that you know exactly what you need to know in order to make the best decision for you. In this video, I'm going to cover what's actually being built in Georgetown and in Round Rock and Liberty Hill, and why projects keep landing in this area specifically, and what it means for your home's value. The data center in Georgetown, Texas is already approved. It's going to be about 10 minutes south of downtown. Blueprint Data Centers is spending about $160 million on a facility off Westinghouse Road. It's about 45,000 square feet sitting on 10 acres, up to 25 megawatts of power capacity once it's done. The City Council approved the zoning and the taxes in it in September of 24. Blueprint's own site lists energization, it's a hard word to say on a video clearly, happening in phases through 2026 and 2027. Now that's an anchor project, but it's already pulling other businesses with it. Jackson Shaw just landed a new tenant in Georgetown's Cross Point Business District, a manufacturer called Bear Manufacturing. It's moving into 606,000 square feet to build underground electrical duct banks that data centers need. It's not a coincidence. That's the supply chain following the data center. That kind of follow-up tenant also means more construction traffic, more industrial vehicles, more activity in that quarter over the next few years. And that's separate from the data center itself. It's worth factoring if you're considering a home near there. Here's what that means if you own a home or if you're looking to buy near Westinghouse Road. It's not a fight like some other cities are having. This one already went through the approval process quietly, with the jobs and the tax base it brings already showing up in the form of new manufacturing tenants nearby. Quiet approvals don't make the headlines, but they make for a much less stressful home purchase. For sellers in that immediate area, more jobs, more commercial tax base usually means a healthier local economy long term, which tends to support home values over time. For buyers, it means checking exactly how close a specific address is to that site before you fall in love with a house, because the answer changes depending on whether you're a quarter mile away or a mile away. I've walked buyers through that type of distance question. It's not something you can eyeball from a listing photo. Trust me, I've tried. And my sense of scale is, well, why I own a tape measure. Round Rock's version of this story looked nothing like Georgetown. It turned into an all-out fight. In February of 26, the Round Rock City Council approved a rezoning request for a skybox data center near East Old Settlers Boulevard and North A.W. Grimes Boulevard. It's almost 30 acres. It was reloaned from light industrial to a planned development after hours of public testimony. Residents showed up, well, angry. Noise, energy use, and water use were the 3 complaints that came up over and over. Now, Skybox told the council they'd use a closed-loop cooling system that recirculates water, using roughly the same amount as about 15 homes. But here's the other side residents didn't love hearing. Round Rock's Mayor Craig Morgan told the council that 93% of the city's properties are residential, but almost 48% of property tax revenue comes from big commercial properties like this one. Take those commercial taxpayers away, and homeowners pick up more of the bill. Now, Round Rock isn't done. Switch is preparing to build a second data center in Round Rock, a project that could run up to $20 million, with construction expected to begin this summer. That means this same debate over noise, water, and tax base is going to play out again in Round Rock within the year. It's not going to be a one-time event tied to a one-time project. Round Rock might want to just start a standing committee at this point. So what does this actually mean if you're buying or selling near this corridor? It means Round Rock is choosing to lean into data centers as a tax-based strategy, even when it means uncomfortable council meetings. That usually means more jobs, healthier commercial tax roll long-term, and that tends to help home value citywide. But if you're looking at a specific street near one of these sites, the noise and water concerns residents raise are worth walking the property and asking about directly, not just reading it in a listing description. I've had clients tell me that a listing photo just didn't tell them the story. And a hum in the background doesn't show up on a listing photo. That's exactly the kind of local detail that shows up in a council agenda months before a home ever hits Zillow. And that property tax math in Round Rock, 48% coming from commercial taxpayers, is exactly the kind of thing that changes what you pay every year in this market. If you get that number wrong when you're budgeting for a move here, you can end up hundreds of dollars a month off what you thought your actual bill would be. And that's not a small variance when you're comparing a home in Round Rock to a similar one in Georgetown. And it's a kind of detail that doesn't show up in online research tools or national relocation guides. Call or text me and we can walk through your specific situation. I'm a little old-fashioned, so I'll always return my calls and texts personally. If you're not quite ready for a call, no hassle. I actually have a spreadsheet that shows you the real cost of living before you commit to any given area in Georgetown. That simple spreadsheet is in the Ultimate Retirement Guide for Georgetown, Texas. You can download that anytime. Not every data center shows up as a fight at City Hall. Some of them are already sitting inside your neighborhood, and nobody complained at all. In Liberty Hill, right next to Santa Rita Ranch, there's a facility called the Ubiquity Edge Data Center. It's a completely different animal than the ones in Georgetown or Round Rock. It's not a massive hyperscale building chasing AI workloads. It's a small facility anchoring a fiber optic network that delivers internet directly to the homes in Santa Rita Ranch. Now, Fiber First uses that same network to run multi-gigabit internet service to residents across Williamson County. So instead of raising anyone's power bill or fighting over water use, this data center's whole job is making the internet faster for people living close to it. This might be the least dramatic data story in the whole video. It's worth contrasting that with Georgetown's Westinghouse Road project or Round Rock's Skybox facility. Those pull real megawatts off the grid and end up in the same conversations as noise and water use. An edge facility like Ubiquity's doesn't show up in those debates at all. This is the part most buyers never really think to ask about. When you tour a community like Santa Rita Ranch, everyone asks about the pool, the amenities, the HOA fees. Almost nobody asks who's actually running the internet infrastructure behind the neighborhood or where it physically sits. And here's a misconception worth clearing up. People hear data center and they picture the same scary headline every time. Increasing power bills, water fights, traffic from construction. But an edge data center like this one is closer to a piece of neighborhood infrastructure than a controversial project. If you're comparing communities and one of them has better fiber internet than another, there's usually a reason. And it's not always obvious until you start looking for it. Three very different stories so far. Underneath all of it though, there are three things people actually feel, no matter which kind of data center shows up: your power bill, your water, or what happens to the land around you. Let's start with power. The average Georgetown, Texas household uses about 845 kilowatt hours a month, paying $14.82 per kilowatt hour, which lands most bills around $125 a month. Utilities are spending billions upgrading the grid right now, and part of that cost comes from keeping up with big new power users like the data centers. That cost eventually shows up on everyone's bill, not just the data centers. Somewhere out there, your air conditioner and a server rack are competing for electricity. And then there's the water. One Williamson County data center uses roughly the same amount of water in a year as about 15 homes. That's according to reporting by Hello Georgetown. That does sound small on its own, but when you add up dozens of these projects across the region, and then factor in that the water used to generate the electricity powering them can triple the total footprint. Now that tripling effect comes from the water used at the power plants generating the electricity these facilities consume, not just what happens on site at the data center. Which is why some water planners now think about a data center's true footprint in layers: on-site cooling, off-site power generation, and whatever expansion capacity gets built into the permit for later. And that is happening. And land is where the real fight happens. Round Rock residents spent hours at a council meeting arguing about the noise and land use before that project got approved anyway. But just so you know, it doesn't always go the developer's way. Governor Abbott announced recently that a proposed data center near Cedar Creek Lake in Henderson County got pulled entirely because it didn't meet the state standards or the community's expectations. So here's your straightforward answer. These projects aren't automatically good or bad for your bills or your land. It depends on the specific project, the specific site, and whether local residents actually show up for the meeting that decides it. If nothing else, it's a good excuse to finally go to one of those meetings. You know, there's so many factors that go into buying a home in a new location. That's why I provide a 100% satisfaction guarantee. When you buy a home from me, if you're not 100% satisfied, we'll sell it for you and not charge you a fee. The details are in the Ultimate Retirement Guide for Georgetown, Texas. Download that anytime. So does living near a data center help your home value or hurt it? Straightforward answer: depends entirely on how close you are to the data center. According to FairPass research on Texas homeowners, homes within a quarter mile of a data center can see values drop anywhere from 5 to 12%. Now that is substantial. That's mostly from the noise and the way the building looks. Between a quarter mile and a half mile, it's more mixed. Sometimes a small 2 to 5% dip in value. Between a half mile and a full mile, the direct impact mostly disappears. And you start seeing the economic upside show up instead. More jobs, more local spending. Beyond a mile, the effect is almost entirely positive. I guess it kind of goes with that old saying, see no evil, hear no evil. Now the tax revenue piece is bigger than most people think. A large facility can generate $8 to $12 million a year in property taxes on its own. Money that funds schools, roads, city services, all of which support home values over time. And here's something worth knowing if you're looking at Georgetown, Texas, Sun City, Wolf Ranch, Parkside on the River, Nolina, Morningstar. As of this recording, there's nothing proposed or approved touching any of those specific communities. Now, if you're interested in Georgetown, Texas communities, that's one more data point worth knowing before you commit. And just so you know, all this comes from public zoning filing, city council record, and MLS data. It's deemed reliable, but not guaranteed. Yes, that's my disclaimer. Always verify the current status before you make a decision. Bottom line, for anyone buying or selling near one of these data centers, near one of these projects, is that distance is everything. A half mile can be the difference between a value hit and a value boost. The only way to know for sure is to check the specific address against the specific project. You can't just say, well, there's a data center being built near that town, we shouldn't move there. That's just not the way it works. It's another time in the real estate business where location is still meaningful. But this time it comes with an odometer attached. That half mile, that makes a difference. It's the one that decides whether a home near one of these projects goes up or down in value. If you guess wrong on that distance, you can end up overpaying for a house that's about to lose value, or miss out on one that's about to gain from all that new tax revenue and job growth. If you're considering a specific address near any of these projects, call or text me directly. I'm a little old-fashioned, so I do respond to all my texts and calls personally. I'm happy to discuss the data center information or anything else that you need. I'll put whatever details and information you need to help you make the best decision. I hope you'll feel free to reach out. Hope to meet you soon, and remember, it's your choice, so make it a powerful day.